Right now, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the Middle East. He arrived in Tel Aviv amid heavy security. Secretary Blinken has often talked about his own family's experience during the Holocaust. After today's meeting with Israeli leaders and visiting a donation center for victims of the Hamas attacks, Blinken is heading to neighboring Jordan for talks with King Abdullah and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Correspondent Kelly Meyer joins us live from the White House. Kelly, we just heard from Secretary Blinken again just really minutes ago.
Yeah, that's right. Just moments ago, speaking for a second time today in an emotional address, talking about really what he's seen so far in his visit, being shown photos of those that have been killed in these attacks, as well as pledging to bring those American hostages back home. I believe we have some video of him meeting with the families of American citizens that are either missing or are being held at the hands of Hamas or killed by Hamas, meeting with those families there in Israel today. He also met with the Israeli people as well, speaking with them, taking a moment to hug them. Some of them, one I believe we're showing, is there are survivors from the music festival attack that he met with today as well. I want to play a little bit from his speech that he gave just moments ago.
This afternoon, I met with families of American citizens that Hamas has killed or taken hostage. The enormity of their anguish, their loss, is immeasurable. For the families of the missing, there's an unrelenting agony of not knowing the fate of their loved ones, something that I don't think most of us can truly understand, truly contemplate if you're not in their shoes.
Such an emotional address there from Secretary Blinken, both this morning and just moments ago. Nichole, you know, as you said, he mentioned his own personal heritage, his Jewish heritage and his family as well. And touching on that personal note of this experience, he says that this visit is a sign of solidarity with Israel and to work towards locating those missing Americans. He said in a joint statement with Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that Washington is working closely with Israel to secure the release of the people taken hostage by Hamas. And as we said, it was also very personal for the Secretary of State being there today. But still a lot of questions, and we've been asking here at the White House around the ties with Iran, if Iran had any involvement in this attack, as they've been known for years to continue to fund Hamas. The White House position on this week has been that they haven't been able to draw a direct link from Iran to the attack by Hamas. Some U.S. officials have said that some Iranian officials were actually surprised by the attack, though they wouldn't identify the Iranian officials that expressed that surprise. We pushed on the White House today on that statement from some U.S. officials, and they shared this consensus from the intelligence community saying, quote, "We do not have any information to suggest that Iran directed or orchestrated the attack by Hamas. Iran likely knew Hamas was planning operations against Israel, but without the precise timing or scope of what occurred. Although Iran has long supported Hamas with material and financial support, we have not currently seen anything to suggest Iran supported or was behind the attack. Though in the meantime, we have just learned that the U.S. and Qatar agreed to prevent Iran from accessing that $6 billion, remember, from that U.S.-Iran hostage agreement back in September. They have an agreement to essentially cut off Iran's access to that. Now, Secretary Blinken didn't go far enough to confirm that today, but he did say that none of the funds have been spent yet. And as the White House has been telling us this week, that those funds can be refrozen at any time.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.